and welcome to Indus News Live from Islamabad. I'm Hira Mustafa and these are the headlines. The United States says it is ready to re-engage in meaningful diplomacy to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said Washington is disappointed that Iran has ruled out talks on the deal with major powers. Earlier, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson said it is not an appropriate time for the talks proposed by the European Union. Israel has launched rocket attacks striking southern parts of the Syrian capital, Damascus. The Syrian army said the attack, second in less than a month, came from the occupied Golan Heights. The military said its air defense systems shot down most of the rockets. Protesters are marching across Myanmar in defiance of a crackdown by security forces that killed at least 18 people a day earlier. In Yangon, people paid their respects and laid flowers for deceased ANTI-COUP protesters. The calls for a more united international response have grown after the worst violence since the military seized power a month ago. Migrants have drowned after their boat capsized off the coast of Libya's coastal town of Zavia. An international organization for migration spokesperson says the victims were on a rubber boat carrying 110 refugees. The global number of coronavirus infections has crossed 114 million with over 2.5 million deaths. The new variant of the virus, first found in Brazil, has been detected in the UK, while the British authorities have been unable to trace so far one of the 6 persons infected. Meanwhile, Pakistan has registered over 1,300 new cases and 36 deaths overnight as its toll nears 12,900. And in the National Basketball Association, Boston Celtics have edged past the visiting Washington Wizards 111-110. Jason Tatum scored 31 points in the game-winning bucket with just 4.7 seconds remaining. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. The U.S. says it is ready to re-engage in meaningful diplomacy to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. It comes after Tehran ruled out holding informal talks with the U.S. and European powers on the deal. The back-and-forth jousting between U.S. and Iran continues over Washington's probable return to the 2015 nuclear deal. Republican senators are mounting pressure on President Joe Biden to keep the U.S. out of the JCPOA. On the latest statement by Iran, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said Washington is disappointed that Tehran has ruled out talks in the deal with major powers. Psaki said Washington will consult with China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom and Germany on the best way forward. However, Tehran argues it is not an appropriate time for the talks proposed by the European Union. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh said the U.S. must lift all of its unilateral sanctions on Iran first. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization has also warned the UN nuclear watchdog against a possible anti-Tehran resolution. Meanwhile, the organization's chief announced 2 nuclear centrifuges at Fordow and Natanz nuclear facilities. Israel has launched rocket attacks striking southern parts of the Syrian capital, Damascus. The Syrian army said the attack, second in less than a month, came from the occupied Golan Heights. The military said its air defense systems shot down most of the rockets. The latest strike is speculated to be in response to an attack on an Israeli-owned ship in the Gulf of Oman.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu blamed Iran for the blast. Israeli aggression in Syria has increased since the start of the year, including a major strike in January. In Yemen, 5 civilians have been killed and 3 others wounded in an explosion at a house in Al-Hawaq district. This comes as the battle for oil-rich MARIB province spreads to the port city of HODEIDAH. In a tweet, the UN mission strongly condemned acts of violence that breached the HODEIDAH agreement. The Houthis and the Arab-led coalition have blamed each other for the attack. However, the UN called on all parties to refrain from attacking residential areas. Violence has escalated in Yemen, especially in MARIB, the government's last stronghold in the north. In Iraq, 5 security personnel have been killed and 4 others wounded after a car bomb explosion in the western Anbar province. A local official said a soldier and 4 tribal fighters were among the casualties. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Last month, 32 people were killed and dozens injured in a twin bombing by ISIS in Baghdad. 15 migrants have drowned after their boat capsized off Libya's coastal town of Zavia. The International Organization for Migration says the victims were on a rubber boat carrying 110 refugees. A spokesperson said 95 migrants were intercepted and returned to Libya by the Coast Guard. Safa Masali said many of the survivors suffered burns from engine fuel and hypothermia, with some taken to hospital. This is a second shipwreck in just over a week, with migrants taking a dangerous sea journey to reach Europe. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, militants have killed 16 civilians in overnight attacks in North Kivu and Ituri provinces. An army spokesperson said rebels aligned to allied democratic forces also burned down several houses. The ADF militia includes Ugandan fighters who have made their base in eastern Congo since 1995. The militia has been blamed for the killings of hundreds of civilians over the past year in both North and South Kivu provinces. Protesters are marching across Myanmar in defiance of a crackdown by security forces. This comes a day after 18 people were killed in the bloodiest violence since the military coup 1 month ago. Clashes took place in various parts of the country after police opened fire on crowds to disperse them. However, the protesters have vowed to intensify their agitation against the military rule. In Yangon, people paid their respects and laid flowers for deceased anti-coup protesters. The United States and Canada condemned the violence and called for a united response. The UN Special Rapporteur for Myanmar, Tom Andrews, proposed a global arms embargo and more sanctions on the military regime. The global number of coronavirus infections has crossed 114 million, with over 2.5 million deaths. Meanwhile, the new variant of the virus first detected in Brazil has been found in the UK, but British authorities have been unable to trace one of the 6 persons infected so far. More in this report.
The fear of new COVID-19 variants is making it hard for countries to lift restrictions and restore normalcy. But frustration and outrage against the curbs are mounting globally, with protests turning violent in some countries. In Brazil, people took to the streets to reject new restrictions as a dramatic surge prompted a lockdown in the capital, Brasilia. Canada has decided to keep its border with the US closed for now until a significant number of vaccines are administered. A World Health Organization estimate shows that less than 10% of the global population has antibodies. In the US, Dr. Anthony Fauci has urged Americans to take the newly approved Johnson & Johnson vaccine or accept any of the 3 approved shots.
All 3 of them are really quite good, and people should take the one that's most available to them. If you go to a place and you have J&J and that's the one that's available now, I would take it. I personally would do the same thing. I think people need to get vaccinated as quickly and as expeditiously as possible. And if I would go to a place where they had J&J, I would have no hesitancy whatsoever to take it.
The Netherlands deployed anti-riot police as people gathered to protest against COVID measures in Amsterdam. The UK has recorded its lowest number of new cases in 5 months. However, authorities are concerned about increased transmissibility due to the Brazilian variant.
So this P1 variant is more transmissible than the original strains we saw from this virus. It is likely to have more antigenic change and therefore increase the risk of reinfections. And while we don't know the response to vaccine yet, we are concerned that we don't have spread of this that may impact on our vaccine program.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also received his first dose of the homegrown vaccine. Meanwhile, researchers in Cambodia and Thailand have recently found a coronavirus in horseshoe bats that is closely related to SARS-CoV-2.
Pakistan has reported 36 more deaths from COVID-19 and nearly 1,400 infections overnight. The nationwide death toll approaches 12,900, while the infections tally is over 581,000. The Health Ministry says there are more than 22,000 active cases in the country. More than 546,000 people have recovered from the disease. Meanwhile, all schools across the country have restarted regular in-person classes from today. However, the Health Ministry has directed the schools to strictly follow the SOPs against COVID-19. These include the use of masks, physical distancing, and hand washing. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has hinted at a possible presidential run in 2024. Addressing a conference in Florida, Trump vowed to help Republicans try to regain majorities. Speaking at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Orlando, Trump repeated claims he had won the 2020 election. The speech was his first major appearance since leaving the White House nearly 6 weeks ago. Trump aimed at disloyal Republicans, blaming them for trying to convict him for the Capitol riots. Trump also dismissed reports that he was launching a third party, affirming his faith in the Republican Party but singling out his rivals. The White House has dismissed Trump's speech as GOP politics looking for a path forward. In Russia, Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has been moved to a penal colony outside Moscow to serve his prison term. According to Russian state media, Navalny will be quarantined before joining other prisoners. The Kremlin critic was arrested last month when he returned to Moscow from Berlin over alleged parole violations. He was later convicted and sentenced on February 2nd to almost 3 years in prison. Last week, the European Court of Human Rights ordered Russia to release Navalny, but Moscow rejected the call. Drama Nomadland has won the top movie honor at Hollywood's Golden Globes in a mostly virtual bi-coastal ceremony. While British royal drama The Crown has swept the television honors. More on this report.
Some of the best content on television and cinema were honored at the 78th edition of the Golden Globes award show. Like everything else, the coronavirus pandemic also affected the awards season. The ceremony took place from both Los Angeles and New York, with nominees virtually taking part from locations around the world. Nomadland movie won top honor at the awards, while British royal drama The Crown has swept the television honors. The Crown dominated the ceremony with 4 awards, including Best Actress for Emma Corrin and Best Actor for Josh O'Connor.
I just want to say I'm very lucky to be able to work in this period, and there are so many people who are unable to work and are alone and isolated, and I hope that we can all collectively put mental health at the forefront of our mind. Thank you so much.
Netflix The Queen's Gambit was named the best television limited series. Anya Taylor-Joy's depiction of a young chess champion fighting drug and alcohol addiction was nearly flawless.
I learned so much. I'm so grateful, and thank you to the audiences that have watched it and supported the characters. It meant the world, so thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Mockumentary Borat's subsequent movie film won the award for Best Movie Musical or Comedy at the awards. Late actor Chadwick Boseman was honored posthumously with the Best Movie Actor award at the ceremony held in Los Angeles. 1970s heartthrob actor and activist Jane Fonda received a Lifetime Achievement Award at the ceremony.
Now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Most stocks in Asia Pacific are trading higher, despite data showed China's manufacturing activity growth slowing in February. Japan's Nikkei 225 jumped nearly 2.5%, recovering from its nearly 4% plunge on Friday. The ASX 200 in Australia added close to 2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index has also ascended over 1%. Mainland Chinese bourses gained almost 1%. South Korea's markets are closed on Monday for a holiday. In the Pakistan Super League, Islamabad United will take on Quetta Gladiators in today's only fixture at the National Stadium, Karachi. Islamabad United are at 4th position in the PSL points table, while Gladiators are at bottom, losing all 3 matches. Earlier, Lahore Qalandars beat defending champions Karachi Kings by 6 wickets. They chased down the target of 187 runs thanks to Fakhar Zaman's knock-off 83 runs. Van Dang chipped in with 57, while David Weiss played a fiery innings of 31 runs. For Karachi, Mohammad Amir and Daniel Christian took a wicket each. Shaheen Shah Afridi was declared player of the match for his 3 wickets for 27 runs. The Pakistan Cricket Board is seeking a written guarantee from the ICC for the visas of players ahead of next year's 2020 World Cup in India. In a press conference, PCB Chairman Ehsan Mani called on India to extend its full cooperation for the event. He added that if India was unable to do so, then the event must be moved to another venue. Mani said he will raise the issue again in the next virtual meeting with the International Cricket Body. A decision on the venue for the 2020 World Cup is expected before April. In the National Basketball Association, Boston Celtics have edged past the visiting Washington Wizards 111 to 110.
Jason Tatum scored 31 points in the game-winning bucket with just 4.7 seconds remaining. The Miami Heat extended their winning streak to 6 games with a victory over the Atlantic Hawks. LeBron James scored 19 points as the Los Angeles Lakers pounded the visiting Golden State Warriors 117-91. The Memphis Grizzlies rolled to a 133-84 victory over the Houston Rockets. Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks got the best of the Kawhi Leonard and the LA Clippers by a 5-point lead. Julius Randle's 25 points helped the visiting New York Knicks third straight win, beating the Detroit Pistons 109-90.
In the English Premier League, Tottenham Hotspur cruised to an easy win over Burnley, which boosted their hopes of European qualification. Gareth Bale scored a brace for the Spurs, while Harry Kane and Lucas Moura scored a goal each. With this win, the Spurs have moved to 8th spot in the Premier League table. In another fixture, Chelsea and Manchester United played out a goalless draw at Stamford Bridge. Earlier, Arsenal came back from 1 goal down to stun Leicester City 3-1 at King Power Stadium, while Fulham were held to a goalless draw away at the Crystal Palace. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.